Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan and welcome to the Deadly and Merciless Comic Book Vault. Today we're going to start a 5-part series on Deadpool. We're going to cover Deadpool Classic Volumes 1 through 5, and these were sent to me by Deadpool321. I want to thank him very much for sending these my way on loan, and this is giving me a chance to catch up on Deadpool and learn a little bit about the character. I've only been peripherally familiar with the character before this. Of course, he pops up in Marvel Comics here and there, and I've never really read current Deadpool, just, you know, his self-titled books. I bought an issue here or there just to see who he is and what he's about, and generally I haven't been especially impressed. Just conceptually, Deadpool seems to just be there to crack a lot of jokes and not tell a lot of stories some of the time, at least the little bits that I've seen. But I wanted to give it a chance, and so Deadpool321 asked me if I want to take a look at these, and I said, yeah, absolutely. Let's learn a little bit more about Deadpool. And so this volume collects a lot of stories, and I considered breaking this up even into more videos, but I think I'm just going to do 5, and I'm going to do the books as they are. So I'm not going to go as in-depth into the miniseries in things as I might have if I had done them separately, but this is going to be kind of an overview sort of thing. Obviously, I still will give some spoilers, so if you don't want to know anything about these and you want to try to get them on your own, don't watch these videos, because I'm going to go ahead and just talk about what I see here, but and you know, tell people about them in case they haven't gotten a chance to read these. But again, I'm not going to go as in depth as I would if I was going to do them separately, because honestly, I'm not sure if I have enough to say really about some of this if I were to separate it out. The first book covers the first appearance of Deadpool in a New Mutants comic, New Mutants number 98, and then it goes into Deadpool the Circle Chase, and I get the sense that Deadpool appeared in some things between those, although I can't be positive about that, but considering that New Mutants number 98 ends on a cliffhanger, and Deadpool has been tied up by Cable and the New Mutants, I would assume that he probably is in more of that, and that he probably pops up some more before that. There also seem to be some references to things that maybe we saw in other comics after that, in Deadpool the Circle Chase. Then there's a second Deadpool mini that's just called Deadpool. I don't think it has a special name. It's just another Deadpool miniseries. And then finally the first issue of the original Deadpool monthly by Joe Kelly and Ed McGuinness. And so there's a whole lot of issues here, there's a whole lot of story here, and let's go ahead and get started. So New Mutants number 98 is Rob Liefeld, and of course Rob Liefeld created Deadpool. This is also, as far as I can tell, the first appearance of Domino, and what it does is it has Deadpool sent by his employer Tolliver, who plays a major role later on, but only in his death, and he's sent by Tolliver to kill Cable, but then Domino shows up to somehow knowing that he was going to be there, and stops him. And then we're given a little bit of his backstory in that issue. We learn that he was part of the Weapon X program, and we get kind of a sense of his powers, although it's a little bit mysterious about what exactly he's able to do, and that's fleshed out a lot more in the Circle Chase. That issue is in here pretty much just to introduce the character, and of course, because it ends on a giant cliffhanger, we don't really get to know where it's going to go after that. A pattern I noticed reading this is that most Deadpool comics, at least here, you know, during this period, and by the way, this is mid-90s, I want to say 91 is when New Mutants 98 was published. So, in fact, I didn't realize he went back that far, and I'm not sure exactly when the Circle Chase is. I think it's just a couple years after that. But anyway, what I'm finding is that a lot of these seem to end with someone either, the big reveal being someone wants to kill Deadpool, or somebody is on their way to do that. It's pretty much I'm going to kill Deadpool, and that seems to be the big point of this character, is people want to kill a guy who can barely get killed. I find myself a little bit confused as to how his powers differ from Wolverine's. I suppose the idea is that because they both have a similar power, they both have a healing factor, and as far as I can tell, Wolverine is able to regenerate his tissue like Deadpool can. It's funny how they're talked about kind of differently, where like with Wolverine it's healing factor, with Deadpool it's regenerating tissue, but it's still a healing factor, and I'm pretty sure that Wolverine can do the same thing, although I've never seen Wolverine regenerate an entire hand before, and so I wonder if Deadpool has like the same kind of power that Wolverine did, only his is like 10 times greater, and I'm sure that sort of thing is probably fleshed out a lot more later on, and I would assume that Deadpool and Wolverine probably have comics together, and it's probably dealt with there. But just reading this on its own, I kind of wondered about that a little bit. So Deadpool, of course, is a mercenary. He's known as the Merc with a Mouth. Merc stands for mercenary, and his whole shtick is he doesn't shut up. He's constantly joking, and the thing about it is different people write him slightly differently, and I think some people make him funnier than others. And he talks constantly, and he's wisecracking with in the Rob Liefeld issue, but I don't think that Liefeld's Deadpool is actually as funny as he is in the Circle Chase. In the Circle Chase, he's written by Fabian Nisia. I always forget. I can never remember how to pronounce his name. I always want to say Fabian Nicieza. I know that's not right. But anyway, he co-created Deadpool, and has a better voice for him, I think. I really like Deadpool's character design, though. I like the way that Rob Liefeld designed him, assuming that Rob Liefeld designed him by himself, and I would assume he probably did. But I really like, the really bold red. What's cool about Deadpool to me is, and let me just make no bones about the fact that he's a character that I'm working really hard to getting to like and getting to get into. He's not really my cup of tea. Reading about a mercenary that goes around killing people who doesn't really have a good sense of morality is not really what I'm into. Having said that, he's getting brought closer and closer to superhero during this, and so I'm getting more interested in him. But anyway, I digress. Let me go back for a minute. What I really like about the character is that everything about him says anti what you're used to seeing for a mercenary. He dresses in bright red. Well, usually a mercenary wouldn't dress in bright colors. He doesn't want to get seen so easily. And Deadpool can be that flashy because it's very hard to kill him. And so that's part of his shtick. Although I suppose Elektra kind of has the same thing too. She dresses in bright red, but still, it's kind of contrary to what you would assume a gun for hire would want to dress like. He also covers himself from head to toe, and yet doesn't really have a secret identity. Granted, he calls himself Deadpool, but it's more of a code name really than a secret identity, because Wade Wilson. He seems to kind of come out and tell people that his name is Wade Wilson, and he's not really worried about people finding out who he is. Besides, if you took his mask off, he's so hideous underneath and is missing all of his skin that you wouldn't be able to tell who he was anyway, just by looking at him. And so it's much more about his personal vanity. And I think all of that is very interesting, that he covers himself not to hide who he is, but, well, actually kind of to hide who he is, in kind of a philosophical sense, that, he doesn't want people to see what he really looks like, but it's about his own vanity. He thinks he's ugly, and he doesn't want anybody to have to see that. And there's an issue in the second Deadpool miniseries that's with a scene that's actually kind of touching, when he finally is forced to reveal his face to Siren, and she's really insulted that he won't let her look at him, and still reels back a little bit when she sees his face. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. Let me go ahead and talk briefly about the Circle Chase itself. Basically, this story is about Tulliver's will, and the idea is that Tulliver was this guy who hired Deadpool to kill people, and he, I suppose, was this really scary underground mob boss kind of guy who you know, hired out guns to kill people he didn't like. And the thing is, I never saw him. I'm sure Tolliver appears somewhere. I don't know what he looks like. I don't know who he is. If you just read this book, and I wanted to do that. I could have done some research, but I wanted to see how this read just on its own. And just reading this by itself, Tolliver's this kind of mysterious name in the background. You don't know who he is, and I think it's kind of fun to read it that way. It makes it more about Deadpool and less about this other guy. And the idea is all of these people that Tolliver had hired are all trying to get their hands on his will. And whoever has the secret to the will, it's kind of funny because I just reviewed Roger Rabbit, which is somewhat about a similar kind of thing. Except that in Roger Rabbit, the will is about a town and about giving the Toons back Toontown. In this, Tolliver's will is about these mercenaries trying to get their hands on on a big secret weapon, and it's supposed to be like the most deadly weapon on Earth. And so it's Deadpool versus Black Tom and Juggernaut, and Juggernaut works with Black Tom, and we actually see Juggernaut quite a bit through this because Black Tom appears again as Deadpool's rival in the sequel to this in the same trade, and we get to see a lot of Deadpool versus Juggernaut action, which is absolutely thrilling and a lot of fun to look at, and of course Juggernaut would be someone that you would want to see Deadpool tangle with a lot because Juggernaut is supposed to be unstoppable, and Deadpool is supposed to be unkillable. So it's a wonderfully even match and a lot of fun to watch. But anyway, so you got Black Tom and you've got Juggernaut together, and then of course you have to have the Old Flame. So you have this girl named Vanessa who's a mutant, and she has the ability to absorb people and then look like them. So kind of like Mystique, except that Mystique can just look like people. She, I guess, has to touch people or something. I was a little bit fuzzy on exactly what her power was. And her mutant code name is Copycat. And I have to say, by the way, that there were this took me a little longer to get through than a lot of things I read, partly because Deadpool never shuts up, and so there's a lot more dialogue on a page. I'll get to that in a minute. I want to make sure and talk about that a little bit, and how that changes the reading of a comic book from what I'm used to. But also, it took a little bit longer because there were a lot of characters I was unfamiliar with, and I had to read a bit slower and try to get my head around who these people were and what I was reading, because really there were only a handful of characters I was even kind of used to seeing. The beginning of this Cable, I was like, okay, I know Cable, but then you get into Circle Chase, and it's like, I've seen Juggernaut, I don't know any of these other people, and then the second trade, I knew of Banshee, but hadn't read a lot of things with Banshee in it, and I knew of Siren, but I didn't even know that Siren was supposed to be his daughter. I mean, like, I didn't even really know that. And then in the first issue of the Deadpool ongoing, you get Sasquatch, and I'm like, well, I've read an issue of Alpha Flight. So at the same time as it was a little bit frustrating having to get used to all these characters that I wasn't real familiar with, it was also kind of fun to learn about them and to get a better sense of who some of these people were. So that was nice. But anyway, Copycat is an old flame of Deadpool's who's no longer in love with him, and she also is trying to get her hands on the will. And but she left Deadpool because he kind of lost his sense of humanity after what happened to him in the Weapon X program. The whole idea behind Deadpool's backstory, which we're given only snippets of as time goes on, and I liked it that, by the way, it never resorts to flashback. Neither of the miniseries really resort to flashback. They tell us what we need to know about Deadpool's backstory when it is relevant to the plot. In fact, the only time that it kind of resorts to a flashback is when there is a machine used on Deadpool I think by Black Tom, to get some of his memories out of his head so that they can look at them. Sort of like a Romulan mind sifter device, and that's like the only time that it resorts to flashback, and I really like that because it's in scene. There's a decent contrivance as to why we're seeing that, as opposed to just having to flashback to so many years ago or whatever. So I kind of liked his backstory being left somewhat mysterious, except for when we needed to know it. And the idea is that he was dying of cancer, and he agreed to go through the Weapon X program to try to solve his cancer, and he was unfortunately horribly scarred all over his body due to the Weapon X program, but came out of it with this ability to regenerate his cells, and that was the idea, was that they were trying to come up with a cure for cancer and be able to completely regenerate his cells, and so it kind of sort of works, but it has these horrible it has these horrible side effects, and so basically, the way the circle chase ends is, everybody's after this will. They finally, Deadpool and everybody finally discovers what the big weapon is, which ironically ends up being like an android that's supposed to be a peacekeeper, and so it's supposed to be the most dangerous thing ever. But it actually wants to kill anything that it perceives as evil, and I thought that was a nice touch. And then it ends with Deadpool showing a little bit of his humanity by putting his life on the line to save Copycat, even though he knows that she doesn't really love him anymore. And these two trades both kind of have that, where it's Deadpool after something for a completely selfish reason, and then at the end you discover that he has at least some amount of humanity, so that you can kind of sort of care about him. And again, I don't know exactly how I feel about that. I think that if I were to have to read that over and over and over again, it would be a formula that I would get really tired of, because it seems like ultimately, okay, so he has some humanity, he's kind of a whole person, but at the same time, having that tacked on at the end is just it comes off as an excuse to have 3.5 issues where you just have a guy running around making a lot of wisecracks. And let me go ahead and take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the wisecracks before I get into the second Deadpool miniseries. We're already at about 15 minutes. This is probably going to be half an hour, so I apologize for the length. But there's, like I said, there's quite a bit in this. What's odd about reading Deadpool dialogue is he'll be in the middle of this huge action spread where he's about to drop kick a guy, and he'll have like pages and pages worth of dialogue around him, and it kind of takes me out a little bit, because I have a hard time picturing exactly what I'm looking at. I mean, you have to suspend your disbelief in a comic book in the first place, because you have to use your imagination to imagine that people are moving while they're talking. But if you have a guy sitting at a desk with a whole lot of dialogue around his head, like any Spawn comic ever, and he's just sitting at a desk, you can kind of imagine, okay, maybe he picked up a pen and he's writing with it while he's talking, maybe he's taking a drink, maybe he's surfing the web on his computer, whatever it is. But you got a guy in the middle of an action spread drop kicking a guy. How did he get all of that dialogue out while he was doing that one kick? And so it's just a little bit different. I'm not used to it, and it's kind of strange to. I think that it stretches the credibility of using the comic book medium in that way a little bit, and it's not a huge deal. I can get around it, but I did feel the need to talk about it, and I did think about it while I was reading it, because I was like, okay, am I supposed to imagine that he's saying all of this while he's like doing a number of other kicks? How can you possibly be articulate enough to get all of this dialogue out while you're in the middle of a big action scene? I know that this is going to be an odd an odd connection to make, but I know in like the 60s Adam West Batman show, it always irritated me whenever they would try to give Batman dialogue during a fight scene, because Adam West would start talking while he was hitting guys, and you'd have sound effects, and you'd have the tables being broken over people's heads, and all these sorts of things going on, and you could never understand what the heck he was saying. And I always liked those scenes a lot better whenever they didn't try to do all those long-winded kind of one-liners. And here Deadpool has that, where he'll have paragraphs of joke while he's making one kick. Deadpool's comedy is hit and miss for me. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's not. I mean, that's really the best way I can describe it. Sometimes it really seems like it's just sort of like Spider-Man sometimes when he's not written quite right, except Deadpool, it seems like this is his whole shtick, where he's constantly talking and constantly joking. It's fun when he uses it to his advantage, constantly talking and using that to to, like, you know, surprise people and catch them off guard. And so I like it when it's used for plot reasons, but a lot of the time it's just there. We're just supposed to laugh at it. And I find it funny about 65% of the time. I think probably the funniest joke for me was in the second, was it the first or the second trade? I think it's the first. There's a guy named Comcast, and he's got that, he wasn't drawn by Liefeld, but he's got that Rob Liefeld type, like, you know, early mid-90s, he's got to have 1,000 things connected to him, and you can't imagine how a person could possibly walk around being that top-heavy. It was just constant detail after detail of, like, he's a cyborg, so he's got all these things coming out of him, and, you can't imagine how he could possibly do anything practically. Like, how could he drive a car? How could he walk through a door? And Deadpool has this line where he says, who are you? And the guy says, Comcast. And I'm starting to get to know Deadpool well enough that I know that this is one of those points where he's going to say something that I'm probably going to laugh at, because he goes, really? Comcast? And I'm thinking the same thing, and he goes, how many channels do you get up in that head of yours? And I thought that was funny. So the second trade is the return of Black Tom, who is reeling from his last bout with Deadpool, and is trying to, and is dying, and is wanting to get a hold of Deadpool so that he can get Deadpool's powers and rehabilitate himself. And so he sends Juggernaut after him, and so it's basically this big struggle between Deadpool and Black Tom, and which ends up involving Banshee and Siren, who Deadpool hits on constantly, of course, and she shows no interest in him. And at first, I was really irritated with that. I thought it was going to be just this constant back and forth of he's making, sexist remarks, and she's cutting him down, and I was going to be really bored by that, except that by the end of it, she starts to actually kind of show interest in him, and like I said, he's irritated with him for not letting her see his face. And the ending of this one is not the epic sacrifice thing. It's much more trying to show humanity in not killing a defenseless victim. And Black Tom, at the end, Deadpool wants to kill him. Siren doesn't want him to kill him, and finally he decides this one time he's not going to kill, and that shows Siren that there's more to him than she thought there was. Considering all the other people that he kills, I always wonder about that with people like that, where it's like, their token "I'm not going to kill you now" scene, which only really works if they stop killing afterwards. Except that he's a mercenary, so he's gonna have to, because that's what he does. You also wouldn't really, I don't know, I'm torn, because you also wouldn't expect him to just completely stop being a mercenary after this. It would be hard to buy that also. But anyway, so there's a lot of fun stuff in this one. I actually enjoyed this better than Circle Chase, and there's this bit where Deadpool gets his hand cut off, and then he discovers that he's having a hard time regenerating, and so that's when we start to get a little bit more of his backstory, because we think that, or Deadpool rather, thinks that he's going to have this regeneration ability forever, and that he's probably immortal, and then it turns out that that's not true, and that it's starting to wear off, and so he goes to the scientist guy who performed the Weapon X surgery on him in the first place, and that guy actually has been hired by Black Tom to fix Black Tom. And so that's how all of this ends up connecting up. And anyway, Black Tom ends up getting his Deadpool's first hand and connects it to it, and actually puts it on himself. And all of that is really weird and creepy, but kind of fun. Like I said, I really enjoyed that one quite a bit. I also like the art better in this one. And let me see if I can real quick tell you who the writer and artist is on the second Deadpool miniseries here. It's... Sorry, I'm looking for it. Okay, it's Mark Waid, Okay, well that explains it, because I really like Mark Waid. And Mark Waid has a really great voice for Deadpool too. And then the penciler is Ian Churchill. So yeah, it's quite good, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed finally getting to really see why Deadpool hates people seeing him so much. And I mean, it's hinted at, but this one really explores that idea. And I really like the chemistry that he has with Siren. And I think that I don't know if Deadpool and Siren ever get together again. This is the Deadpool I've read so far. I don't know anything about this character beyond this, so I'm interested to see if she comes back. But she is mentioned in the first issue of this Deadpool Monthly that we get here, and this is another one of those stories of Deadpool having to redeem himself with an epic sacrifice, which, again, I would get really tired of if that's what it was every single time, but this is bringing him closer to the potential of actually becoming a superhero rather than just a mercenary, so I'm totally for it. And this is Deadpool and Sasquatch from Alpha Flight, and what happens is he's hired by this group to go into Antarctica, and he hates that he got sent to Antarctica, but he wanted to take whatever the job was, and it's kind of funny because he's like, no, I won't, I don't. He's like, don't give this job to somebody else. He doesn't even know what it is. He's like, I want it. I want some work. He's kind of feeling depressed and sorry for himself about other things that have happened to him, and so he's like, no, I need a job, and they're like, okay, and they send him to Antarctica, and Deadpool hates the cold, which is kind of a thing for Deadpool, I guess, and then he finds out that his job is to go destroy this big reactor, and Sasquatch is there and part of this this group that I guess the idea is that there's, I forget what it is, but there's some element in the atmosphere that they're trying to keep down as much as they can, and if this plant, or this reactor is destroyed, then it's actually going to for whatever reason destroy like the entire northern hemisphere, and it's going to destroy a whole lot of the world. And so basically Deadpool decides, because he doesn't know about this, and he's not really for killing, you know, a whole bunch of the world, so finally he decides to stop this at the risk of his own life, and he jumps into all this radiation and poison, and lets it eat away at his skin and stuff while he stops this problem, and you know, regenerates all the way through it. And I guess he's fixed his regeneration powers since that last miniseries, which we don't really see. And again, I'm assuming that there's some Deadpool somewhere in between those two things. And so at the end we find out that the whole thing was just a test by this group that wants him to become a superhero to help solve some mysterious problem that they think only Deadpool can solve, and we're not told what that is yet. Now, my question is, what would they have done if he had not passed the test? Would they have allowed the whole Northern Hemisphere to get destroyed? I have no idea. Anyway, that's the first trade of Deadpool Classic, and I'll cover Deadpool Classic Volume 2 tomorrow. Hopefully it will be a shorter video. I don't know how much is in that, and if there's as much story to cover. But anyway, I'm looking forward to it. The verdict's still out on how much I like or dislike Deadpool. I'll say overall, the second miniseries is better than Circle Chase, in my opinion, but I liked a lot of things about Circle Chase also. I liked the art in those two books a lot more than I liked the art in the first issue of the Deadpool Monthly, which is just a little too cartoony for my taste, but I didn't really care as much for the way Liefeld was drawing Deadpool, even though I like the design as much as these other two guys in the miniseries. So anyway, everybody, thanks a lot for watching the Comic Book Vault. Hope you enjoyed it, and if there's anything you'd like me to review in a future Comic Book Vault, feel free to send me suggestions, and if you have any books lying around that you don't want anymore, or something that you're just itching for me to review that I don't have in the vault, you can always send me things to our P.O. Box. That's Geekvolution, P.O. Box 14183, Lenexa, Kansas 66285. I'm Captain Logan, and happy reading.